also signifies a profound and I think permanent change in the relationship between the United States and Israel, which is something that I was never that interested in, but the last couple of years, and particularly since this war began in February, has been the focus of my attention because it's been the defining fact of America. And I think with this, that changes in ways that are, very hard to predict, but the outlines are pretty obvious. Like there's no going back to where we were after this for a bunch of different reasons. And after the president made a series of statements, which were just shocking to me, hilarious because they're true, but amazing. I mean, the president of the United States stood up, I think in Europe at the G7 2 days ago and said, what, I like Bibi, nice guy, good partner, the caveats, but what he's doing in Lebanon is just brutal. It's just brutal. Blowing up apartment buildings because of drones. I mean, come on. I think we're going to hand control of the fight against Hezbollah to Jelani in Syria.
Yeah, when Trump was saying that, I was like, yo, pretty much saying that bin Laden head choppers is going to carry out the taking out of Hezbollah more humanely than Israel says a lot. When you trust people who be lobbing off people's heads more than the state of Israel, I mean, that should tell you a lot right there.
Jelani? Without getting boring, as I know Jelani was effectively installed a year and a half ago by the United States, Turkey, and Israel. They've never admitted that, though Trump just kind of did admit it, because Assad was unacceptable to Israel. Now he's living in Moscow in exile. Jelani is a former Al-Qaeda leader.
Yep.
I've run into him a couple times in the Middle East. He's like 6'8". And even the Gulf states, who are not, huge on human rights, even they're like, oh, I don't know, this guy's pretty brutal. Are we his ally now? Now, I'm not here to endorse Jelani. I think it's shocking that we allowed an Al-Qaeda leader to run Syria. We have troops in Syria, so we had, we have a stake in this. So I don't know if this head chopper is less brutal than Netanyahu. I don't know, but I know Netanyahu, and not even Netanyahu, but his coalition. I think Netanyahu is actually one of the more moderate figures in his coalition. I don't think it's all Netanyahu at all. But I think someone like Ben-Gvir or Smotrich or, a number of different cabinet ministers are, well, of course, bloodthirsty, but don't consider non-Israeli lives fully human. I mean, it's obvious by what they say. They've said that, and their laws now reflect it within the state. I grieve over that as someone who's liked Israel for a long time and been there a lot and has a number of Israeli friends who are totally reasonable, decent, good people. I grieve over what's happened to that country, but it's a stain on the conscience of the world. And so when Trump says that, he's absolutely right. You're bombing Beirut. You just stole southern Lebanon, south of the Litani River.
Yep.
You use the pretext of a war that you got us into to launch a new war with our money and our weapons designed to expand your territory.
Yep.
It gets so crazy. And no one and the rest of the world sees this. And even in the UK, where people have gone to jail for criticizing Israel, it's still much more normal for people to say this. Normal people, not anti-Semites or Nazis or crazies, but just like normal people. Like, what is this? In the US, that is not normal. I have not lived in a world where people felt free to say that or even really thought about it very much. We're so far away is part of the problem. And the criticism of Israel traditionally came from like crazies, either anti-Semites or far left, anti-colonial type people, just not people in my world, I never met anyone like that, actually. Never had dinner with anyone like that. So mainstream criticism of Israeli policies, not of Jews or of Israel's right to exist or whatever, but just of like what they're doing and what we're paying for, that didn't exist in the United States. And now all of a sudden it does. And so I think the status quo is not sustainable. That's a massive change in American politics. And there are a lot of other changes, but they're all happening in real time. So like, I'm not smart enough to know exactly where they're going to wind up, but I know that this is a pivot in our history.
And I want to talk to you about.
I mean, yeah, usually throughout history, we kind of just let Israel do what they want, no matter how gruesome it is. Now that we actually need Israel to stop their bullshit to save our economy, is kind of a little bit more drastic. And we're starting to realize that, you're not really an ally. Like, you're literally telling us to our face that F your economy, we're going to crash out on Hezbollah, even if it means you don't get this deal and your people see higher gas prices and your economy fails. It's like, how is that our greatest ally if they're literally telling us right to our face, we don't give a shit how this war affects you and your people? But we give a shit about anything that affects Israel.
Gaza, Lebanon, go into more detail on these issues. But you've said a couple of things there that I want to sort of talk about a little bit more. You said that the idea that Donald Trump 4 months ago went into a war partnering with Benjamin Netanyahu, and he's now criticizing him in the way that he is. Why do you think, and how do you think this evolution happened over the course of the last 4 months?
It's something that I've really meditated on for the past 110 days since it started, because I was so close to the process. I was talking to Trump all the time. I was in Washington 3 times in the last month talking to Trump about this, trying to argue against a regime change effort in Iran, because I thought it would be terrible for the United States. I thought it would be the end of American empire. I thought the United States would wind up retreating from the Middle East. And those may be good things, by the way. I don't, who knows? But I thought that it would be terrible for the US dollar, and I thought Americans would die. And I told him all of those things. And he knew that those were risks, realistic risks, and he did it anyway. So I don't know why. There were no maybe Rubio secretly, but there were certainly no advisors loudly encouraging this around him. I don't think. Dan Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, I don't think so. So why did he do this? And I have a number of theories. I don't know if they're true, so I won't bore you with them, but he was certainly following the lead of Israel, as he said. I think Trump was he allowed himself to convince himself that killing the Ayatollah, the head of Shia Islam, would somehow collapse the country. RIC, or various intel agencies, told him that wasn't true. The Israelis told him it was true. When a couple of days in, it turned out to be totally false. I think he was enraged. He knew he was trapped. He knew that the American economy was at stake. The global economy was at stake. And I think he immediately blamed Netanyahu for it. Our Secretary of State went out and publicly said, we followed Israel into this war. Kind of a shocking thing to say. I think the Secretary of State said that at the urging of the president, who immediately, as he does, blamed someone else for his mistake. I do think Israel shares a lot of the blame for this. Of course they do. But fundamentally, it was Trump's decision. He's the president. And whether he works for others, and he clearly does, it's still his decision.
Yeah, people do try to kind of take agency away from the president, saying, well, Israel dragged him into this. And it's like, yeah, but he chose to get dragged into this. He believed the lies that Bibi and Mossad told him, and now he got himself into this situation where he makes himself look weak. He made the American army look weak. And now we got to sit here and deal with a memorandum of understanding that isn't, in our favor whatsoever. Where Iran get all the benefits. So I don't really know what to honestly say I don't really honestly know what to tell people when they want to sit there and be like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. We won this war. And I'm like, bro, read that memorandum of understanding and tell me in good faith, do you think we won that after reading that? You think we really won the war after reading the memorandum of understanding? Really think about what you're saying.
And it's still his fault. And so his instinct always is to shift the blame. And he shifted it to Israel. And I think that's been brewing within him. And ultimately, he said this himself yesterday. He said, we're running out of oil. Our strategic petroleum reserve is at its lowest level since 1983. So, and you can't draw it down too much because the caverns will collapse. So we're actually in a really...
it's funny. Trump said a lot of funny things during that little press conference he had, I think after the G7. No, during the G7. He said a hell of funny things. He said that, Iran has a right to defend themselves. He said that, we're 4 weeks away from our strategic reserves hitting low. And he called all the neocons stupid. And that's why he called them stupid. He's like, I don't think these guys are smart. He's like, I tell them that our strategic oil reserves are at a low. We're like 4 weeks away from scraping the barrel. And they're going like, you must keep going. You must go into war with Iran. You must keep bombing them. And he's like, whoa. Did you not hear what I just said? I said, we're 4 weeks away from scraping the bottom of the barrel, bro. If we keep doing this, Americans will see like $10 a gallon price. But we must take out Iran. The American people understand. And it's like, bro, it's almost like they wasn't really trying to give Trump a way out, that Trump would just have to say like, okay, yeah, you guys are dumb. You're dumb. I'm telling you, low-key, we can't afford to do this. You're telling me how we just need to keep on going. And Trump did show his frustration during that G7 conference.
The president himself said yesterday, we've got 4 weeks left, at which point you may not be able to buy gasoline. So, and I don't know, I think that's an overstatement, but it's, he's seen the models that show that we're going to endure severe and lasting economic damage, and so will the rest of the world, so will Asia, particularly Southeast Asia. It's going to cause a lot of problems if it
To
continues.
be real with you, the way gas prices rising, car prices are rising, insurance is rising, bro. It's about to become a luxury to drive. It's literally going to become a luxury. Like what gas price, insurance, and the price of a car. Yeah, it's literally going to become a luxury to drive. Hopefully, we don't.
That's been
get
obvious
there.
since day one. But I think it's an unavoidable fact now for him, and he had to get it. And we're also running out of weapons, So
Do you think then ultimately the last 4 months has made the United States weaker?
much weaker, of course, much weaker. Now, my view, and this is a view that I have come to in the last couple of years, just from traveling a lot, and it's an evolving view. So who knows how I'll feel when the facts come in a year from now. But I think we had an unsustainable empire that was not serving the interests of the republic, the country itself. And it cost too much. I think it degraded our politics. I think it sucked up the attention of our leaders, much more interested in defeating Islamic Jihad than in ending homelessness. Like that's a misalignment of goals.
Boy, that was about to increase homelessness. They were willing to increase homelessness for the what? Take out the jihadis who weren't really messing with us until we bombed them, and they didn't close the strait or try to take control of the strait until we bombed them. But apparently, sending the people into economic turmoil doesn't mean anything to them, as long as they can bomb Iran. And they, like I said, bro, it was a mask off moment. I loved it. The entire pro-Israel influencer movement just, mask off. Showed us who they truly cared about. Showed us that they're willing to send the American people into economic turmoil, send troops to their death, all just to take out Iran, who really, that would mainly benefit Israel and not us, especially if the end result meant us, continuing the war. It would only hurt us and pretty much empower Israel. And they knew that, and that's why they were okay with it. And I'm pretty sure all those same pro-Israel guys, if this war would have continued, I guarantee you, while the economy's collapsing, they asses hopping on the jet to Israel, looking at your ass like, ha ha, goyim, you fell for it.
Goals and values like that can't continue. The population deeply resents it, and a lot of people have died, and our treasury has been drained by it. So, what we were doing wasn't working. I hope the next iteration will be better for the United States. I'm American fundamentally, but I know that wasn't working, and at some point it was going to end. And if this is the point at which it ends, we can say, with some sadness, with some mixed feelings, the blue passport isn't as strong as it used to be, and that is sad as an American. On the other hand, we got out pretty easy compared to how it might have gone if we'd had a confrontation over Taiwan or something and lost, a pitched battle against,
or a war where you're dragged in for 20 years.
Literally not inconceivable. You could easily see that happening. And now I think it's less likely. I mean, who knows? We've got 60 days, by the way, to see this MOU become a treaty. An awful lot could happen. Israel's very threatened by this, and I don't think it's just hysteria. To show some empathy for Israel, I think this is truly a disaster for Israel. I don't care that much. I think, but they're nice people and decent people.
I mean, bro, can you imagine how Israel feels? Like I said, they dragged us into this war, and their goal was to weaken Iran so much to where they're easy to topple over. Now, all they did is honestly make the IRGC more stronger, make Iran more, really enrich Iran, enrich the IRGC. We're about to give them a whole bunch of sanction relief. We're about to give them basically an not us, but the Gulf countries about to give them an economic stimulus package. So I don't really even understand how you could claim this as a win. I really don't even understand how even people could sit there and say, oh, we decimated Iran when we're about to enrich their economy. And the IRGC is still in power, of course. So who do you think this money's going to?
And so I feel sad in the face of all tragedy, but I do think they're staring down the barrel of a real threat for the first time in a long time. They have a long history of hyping threats and trying to, we're always the victim and all this stuff. But I think in this case, it's kind of real. I mean, they went in with a number of different goals. One was to reduce America's influence in the Middle East. They've achieved that. One was to reduce the power of the Gulf states. They've achieved that. But the main goal was to take Iran off the table, to reduce it to civil war, and so they don't have to deal with it. And they can do what they want, and they're the regional hegemon. Got it. I don't think that's a crazy goal, by the way. I'm not mad at Israel for wanting that. All states want that, right? And they saw it within their reach. And the net effect, because life is irony, is the opposite. Iran is much stronger now than it was 100 days ago.
Oh,
Yes.
much stronger. I mean, they got control of the Strait. People are recognizing their control of the Strait. Their missiles have now been recognized as a regional threat, and everybody in their boots shaking. And it's because we allowed Iran to low-key make an example out of everybody and us. And this is, and like I said, if the strongest country in the world cannot remove them off the Strait, then all these guys are going like, yeah, well, I know we can't then if they can't. And that's why I'm pretty sure a lot of these guys said, no, we need to go back into war. We can't leave Iran with this example that they set. And trust me, I get that. And I wish we didn't give them this. But if we keep going, we will destroy our economy. So no, sorry. We can't afford it no more. We tried our best. We shouldn't have tried it all, but we tried our best. And we didn't get no results. It is what it is. Shout out to my man James, bro, for sending a star for 2 jewels. Appreciate the support, guys. And make sure you guys send any question, comment, jokes, or disagreements. Super chat, GIF, Venmo, don't really matter, guys. As long as you're supporting the show, I appreciate you truly. And make sure to double tap that screen and like the video as well, because I appreciate all of you guys who like the video and subscribe to the channel as well. Appreciate it.
The United States, the world's great superpower, is treating Iran as a real place. Not as an equal, maybe, but sort of.
Why is that? Why?
Because we have no choice. We have absolutely no choice. And we didn't, because Iran's power is not military. So this is like, there's a whole, I do hope people will meditate on how did we get here, because it's the fruit of a bad system that produces incapable leaders, clearly, because they're chosen on the basis of like absurd criteria, like obedience rather than creativity. But it's also
it's true. Like Iran has elections, but the problem with Iran's elections is it's controlled by the Ayatollah. It's controlled by the religious clerics. So they get together, they choose 5 candidates that are approved by the Ayatollah, aka they're IRGC approved, and they are allowed to now run for the election. There's 5 candidates, and the Iranian people vote for their favorite one. There's 2 parties. There's the Reformists, which is the more liberal party, and then there's the Principalists, which is basically the IRGC party, the right wing.
Like being in charge for 80 years, it makes you weak and decadent and dumb. And you start to convince yourselves of things that are not true. And one of the things we've convinced ourselves of is that power flows only from the barrel of a gun, and that military power is the only power. And so we fund our military to the tune of $1.5 trillion a year and declare ourselves in charge. And we just lose to a country we've described for generations as like a backward theocracy. How'd that happen? And the answer is because military power is not the only form of power. Geographic power is actually more important.
I mean, and you say you spoke to the president about this. Others would have told him about this.
A lot of people make that joke of the people who are cheerleading this Iran war can't even point to Iran on a map. And the reason why we say that and we make that joke about you guys is because if you look at Iran on a map, you can clearly see why this war was a bad idea. You can clearly see why the blockade would never work, all of that. And if you just look at a map, yeah, they have not only military power, but geographical power as well. Like the Strait of Hormuz is part of their waters. It's Omanian and Iranian waters that consist of the Strait of Hormuz. Sorry, but that's just the truth of it. They're right there. And also, guess who else are close to? Our Gulf allies. We have a lot of assets in military assets, business assets, etc. that are all within Iran's reach, which they showed us. So do you see the problem here? If you just look at a map, you can see why this war was a bad idea. Shoot, if you look at a map of Iran and you see those big ass mountains they got to the east and the west of them, you could really see how a ground invasion would have been the worst idea.
No, they're all cowards. They're cowards. I'm sorry. Ooh, now you just made me emotional. So it makes me mad. I'm a podcaster who happens to know Trump. I'm not a genius. I don't speak Persian. Like, I'm not an area expert. I've spent a lot of time on the Persian Gulf, like a lot, for decades. So I've certainly visited a lot. I know 1 million people there, but I don't speak the languages. So I'm not by definition an expert. And as I've just noted, I'm a sub-genius.
But you spent a lot of time telling him this stuff.
But my point is, like, why did it fall to me? What, you know what I mean? Like, there are people paid to give this advice, but I watched. And there's some good people there for sure. Some smart, well-meaning people, but there weren't a ton of people who were willing to march in there and say, this is nuts, man. This is nuts. And you're being sold a story that's not true. And I not hate against Israel. Like, I understand they've got a different perspective from ours. They have different goals from ours because they're a different country. Mm-hmm. But if you follow this path, you will be entrapped. This is a trap. I did tell him that. He didn't like it at all, but it was true. And it wasn't just true. It was obviously true. It was obviously true. I didn't want, by the way, I spent my whole life in Washington. I have no desire to go back. Didn't want it. I went at my expense. Nobody paid me.
But did the penny drop for you where you suddenly thought, he's going to do this?
You know, I mean, Trump's not the only one who's good at fooling himself. I am too. I kept thinking, and I thought this in the Iraq War, I knew Bush. And I remember thinking, you know, in the late 2002, they're not really going to invade Iraq. And everyone I knew, all the dumber, more artistic people who just sort of see the world like your dog sees it, just like assess the facts and come to obvious conclusions. That is the way, by the way. That's the only way. I overthink things. So I'm like, well, this is all like some elaborate feint and they're not really going to do it. A friend of mine who's kind of autistic goes, of course they're going to do it. They're moving the troops to the region. Why do we have all these troops in Kuwait? They're going to do it. And I was like, there's no way. And in March of 2003, I was in Florida with my kids on spring break, my little kids, and they rolled over the border into Basra. And I'm like, what? And next thing I know, I'm there too. Like everyone's there, you know, you have to be there. So the world changed. But for me, it was a shock. And in this specific case, even though I talked to Trump dozens and dozens and dozens of times, like endlessly about Iraq for the last 10 years, Iran rather, for 10 years, and my position never changed. This is not a good idea. I was still shocked when I got a text on Signal at like 10 o'clock the night before saying we're going in. And I was like, there's no way. And the first thing I did, this is how totally deluded I am, is I checked the time in Tehran and it was like sun up, or the sun had just come up. And I said to myself, as someone who's never served in the military and is not an expert on military tactics, but I like convinced myself there's no way we're going to launch.
Oh, guys, and just in case you don't know, there has been an earthquake in Venezuela, in Caracas. So make sure you keep the Venezuelan people in your prayers because they got hit with a pretty heavy earthquake and buildings did collapse and all that good stuff, or all that terrible stuff. I'm sorry. So make sure you keep the Venezuelan people in your prayers because they did just go through an earthquake.
The war in daylight. There's just no way we're not going to do that. Like, I don't know why I thought that. I don't watch movies. I don't know. I just like had this idea. We at dawn is too late. But of course, I had no idea what I was talking about. It was not too late. We did it. And I woke up and my wife woke me up the next morning early and said, we've gone into Iran. And I couldn't believe it. Like, I was shocked because it wasn't a close call. There was not one person who I heard made a case that this would be good for the United States.
Nope.
There was a lot of hysteria about Iran having, ICBMs and nuclear weapons. It was all a lie. Everyone knew it was a lie. But like, I never heard anybody say, okay, let's affect regime change in Iran. And here's how America is like a way better place to live in 10 years. No one even tried to make that case. So it was like, this can't really happen.
Well, the person who did make the case.
I mean, bro, apparently, and I'm just going to speculate on this. This is speculation, but apparently the Israeli government thought that they thought the war hawk voice was strong enough to make America crash out on Iran, to where we were just so dedicated to stopping Iran from getting a nuke that we were willing to throw away our economy. And they were obviously wrong. They thought we were going to do it for Israel. That's the most hilarious part about it.
Case was Benjamin Netanyahu, and he, advocated for this, but he hasn't advocated just to Donald Trump for 25 years, for 30 years. He's been advocating to president after president. I mean, why Trump?
You're absolutely right. The core premise of your question is undeniable. Many presidents have faced this pressure. Only Trump caved. That's just a fact. So as I said, I don't know why.
He wasn't hypnotized. He just swallowed it.
He may have been hypnotized.
I'm weak.
That's real. People are absolutely hypnotized. I know a lot of people have been hypnotized. I have been hypnotized. I mean, of course, people are hypnotized all the time.
But on an issue like this, but on an issue like this,
of course, we're all hypnotized from time to time.
I mean, yeah, he swung a watch from him. He said, "You will go to war with Iran. It will only take 4 days to 2 weeks. Tell the American people they'll have nukes in 2 weeks as well. And when I snap my fingers, you will follow Israel into Iran in 1, 2, 3, and boom. There you go. Now we're bombing Iran."
Words have power. Words change reality.
But this is a president who
We hypnotize ourselves all the time.
But you supported him. So many like
Well, I
you
didn't just support
him.
him. I campaigned for him.
I mean, I was, by the way, and we'll talk about this. I was at the RNC when you spoke.
No way.
I was, and you spoke, and you were convincing and compelling.
Well,
in
I had
your
no notes. I
arguments.
meant it.
But to come out to campaign for him, to support him in the way that you did, and then for him to campaign on a no war, no forever wars, and for it to end up like this.
No one was as shocked as I was.
Yeah.
So my first of all, I would just say is I try to force myself to say always, I was wrong. I've been wrong about a lot of other things, including the Iraq War. So I am capable of being not just wrong, but very embarrassingly wrong. So that's just a fact. Why was I wrong? It's not like I didn't know Trump had flaws. I know Trump intimately. I know Trump really.
What pissed me off about this is just like, I think we should have known better. I mean, think about it. Donald Trump said it best. It's like, bro, every time we get into a war in the Middle East, it never works out for us. All these skirmishes in the Middle East always blow up in our face. Like the term blowback was invented for a reason, because every time we get it back and go into the Middle East, we get blowback. And it's been like that every single time. We have no good results in the Middle East. So it's insane to think that we can go into Iran, which is the most formidable country in the Middle East, and thought we were going to get good results. Like, it's pretty insane. Like, think about it. Every time we go into the Middle East, all we do is lose taxpayer dollars, soldiers, and get zero results for real. Or we get results for like, what, a couple months to a year, and then it's back to the status quo. So I'm sorry, but it was insane for people to sit here and think that, oh, well, going into Iran or striking Iran was going to be good. I mean, all right, well, tell me how our other operations in the Middle East went down. Terribly. So why you insane ass thinking that's going to work out this time? Please let me know, because you sound absolutely insane. But all right.
Well, and I've always liked him, but I know what he's like. And so I was eyes wide open in some ways. But my calculation was, and it seemed obvious, that from my perspective, what the country needs is a choice. And the Republican Party and the Democratic Party are identical in their core assumptions about the economy and foreign policy, which is what matters. And I thought Trump was an option.
Are you talking to Trump at the moment?
No.
You haven't spoken to him since?
I've not. February 28th. I spoke to him the 27th. I haven't talked to him since.
Yeah, I see why.
I don't hate him. I feel sorry for him. What he did is a catastrophe. He knew it would be. He did it anyway. So the question
I don't hate Trump either. I'm just extremely disappointed. That's all. That's all I could really be. I guess all I can really feel. I don't know why, but I don't really have the capacity to truly hate a person. I just usually disagree with them, or I just dislike something about them, but I don't hate them. Like, I can't look at nobody and just be enraged. I'm sorry. I could look at people and be disappointed. I can look at people and be embarrassed, but I just can't look at you with full hatred. It's just the person that I am. I know some of you guys can, but I can't. I can be highly disappointed. That's what I am at Trump. It's like, I don't have TDS, but I could, come on now. You can't say I'm not being fair with my criticism. He got us into a war and we gotten zero favorable results. That's not me having TDS. That's me telling you the truth. Like, if you want to go be sat there and lied to, great. Go to a MAGA channel. They'll lie to you all you want. But, I mean, the end results are still the same. The memorandum is still written out the same, no matter what a MAGA influencer tells you. This was not a win. But, I mean, you could be lied to if you want to, but it ain't going to be here.
I think it's really important to know, just as I think it's important to know who killed John Kennedy. It happened before I was born. I'm not a Democrat. Like, I have no personal reason for needing to know that, other than I've got a stake in the United States. I've got a bunch of kids. I hope the country continues. I sort of like our system. I would like to preserve it. And if there's evidence that elections aren't the final say in who runs the country, if there are people who have control over the people who claim they have control, then I have a right to know what that is and who they are.
And I want to quote you, because you say the war in Iran has taught us that the people you elect aren't even in charge. Someone else is, in this case, Benjamin Netanyahu.
Yes.
What are the long-term effects of a population understanding that voting doesn't make a difference?
Exactly.
I mean, I guess...
Scary.
But I ask because Donald Trump has stopped this war now. And Benjamin Netanyahu, you have said in this interview, this is a dangerous moment for Israel.
Big time.
Benjamin Netanyahu is concerned. He has said, this is not my deal. This is not my ceasefire. I reserve the right to defy it if I need to. But that is Donald Trump in charge, right?
I don't know if it's Trump in charge. I mean, he's certainly taking a different course than he did 110 days ago, for sure. Radically different. And he's blaming his failures on Netanyahu, which is predictable. And well-deserved. Like, I'm not mad about it. And I think Netanyahu is obviously a criminal, and I don't feel sympathy for him after all the innocents he's murdered. But I do feel sympathy for Israel, just because there are a lot of nice people in Israel, and they don't deserve this. Nobody deserves this. And as I said, I think this is, I want to be honest enough to admit, I think this is a very, an actually threatening, not a fake theatrical threatening, but actually threatening moment for Israel. So I feel bad about that. But all I knew is what I saw. Trump was not enthusiastic about doing this. He knew the risks. He thought the risks were real. He told me that. And he did it anyway. And he did it against the advice of his own intelligence agencies and against the wishes, and maybe in some mild cases, the advice of his own advisors. So why did he do that? At whose behest did he do that? He wasn't enthusiastic about it. He'd said for 10 years he wasn't going to do it. He thought it was a bad idea. He campaigned against regime change wars in the Middle East. A lot, not just parenthetically, but it was a central position. And it, so far as I could tell, having talked to him about it many, many, many times, I think it was heartfelt. So I don't know what to say. I mean, and people try and push you off the